My mom slapped me because my brother said I stole money from them for mortgage. I said it was not true, and exposed his intentions to steal all their money to run away. It all started the night of my parents' anniversary dinner. We just finished eating, and for once the atmosphere was surprisingly warm. My mom and dad were laughing about an inside joke they always told at these celebrations. Tom, my older brother, even joined in, which was rare because he usually acted like he was too cool for family stuff. Then, out of nowhere, Tom said, "I need to bring something up." Everyone fell silent. Tom never needed to bring something up. He thrived on not being disturbed. So when he struck that serious tone, I thought, "What now?" He looked right at me, his expression hard. I wasn't going to say anything, but it's been bothering me for weeks. "Mom, Dad, there's money missing. A lot of money. And I know who took it." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what he was talking about, but the look on his face told me exactly who he was going to blame. "She did it," he said, jabbing a finger in my direction. "Excuse me?" I asked, caught between laughing at how ridiculous this was and the growing knot of fear in my stomach. Tom didn't even hesitate. "The 13 grand you had saved up for the mortgage? It's gone. And the only person who could have taken it is her." My mom gasped, and my dad's face darkened in a way I'd never seen before. "Is that true?" he asked, his voice low. "No." I shot back immediately. "I don't even know where you keep the money, let alone how much there is." 13 grand? How would I even know that? And that's when I realized Tom had slipped up. He'd said the exact amount. How would he know the total unless? "Because you've been digging around," I blurted out. "That's how you know." My mom's face snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing. "Don't turn this around on your brother. Do you think he's accusing you for no reason?" "Yeah," Tom chimed in, his voice calm. "You've always had a hard time taking responsibility. Just admit it, and maybe Mom and Dad will go easy on you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't some misunderstanding, this was a full-blown setup. And he was good at it. But the worst part? My parents were hanging on every word. My dad stood up abruptly. "We're going to check the hiding place right now." I followed them into their room, my heart pounding. Tom stayed behind, casually leaning against the dining room table as if he had nothing to worry about. When my dad opened the small safe they'd hidden in their closet, the money was gone. Every dollar. My mom turned to me, her face pale but angry. "Where is it?" "I don't know," I pleaded. "I didn't take it. Why would I take it?" But they wouldn't listen. They talked over me, accused me of breaking their trust, and threatened to throw me out if I didn't return the money. My dad even mentioned calling the police if I didn't come clean. That's when it hit me, Tom wasn't just accusing me for fun. He'd planned it. He wanted them to turn on me completely. By the time they were done screaming, I was too overwhelmed to stay. I packed a bag, grabbed my keys, and left the house without saying another word. That night, I crashed at my friend Emma's house, shaking with anger and disbelief. But as much as I wanted to crumble under the weight of it all, I knew one thing: Tom wouldn't get away with this. Emma didn't ask too many questions when I showed up at her door with a hastily packed bag. She just gave me a long hug and sat me down on her couch. That's the thing about Emma, she knows when not to pry. I barely slept that night. My mind kept circling back to Tom's smirk, the way he had everyone eating out of his hand. It was as if he'd rehearsed it all. And the way my parents had looked at me, like I was some stranger who'd come into their lives to ruin everything. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew one thing: Tom was behind this, and I was going to prove it. The next morning, I called in sick to work and went back to the house. My parents were both at work by then, and I figured Tom would be at his college classes. I still had my key, so I let myself in and went straight to his room. I started with his desk, but it was mostly a mess: old notebooks, loose papers, random junk. Then I looked under his mattress, in his drawers, and even in his guitar case. Nothing. But then I opened the closet. Hidden behind a row of neatly hung shirts was a small box. When I lifted the lid, my heart almost stopped. The money. All of it. My hands trembled as I pulled out the bundles. It wasn't just randomly stuffed in there. He'd packed it neatly, like he was planning to take it somewhere. I could have just taken the money and left, but I knew better. If I showed up with it, they'd probably still blame me, say I was returning it to cover my tracks. I needed something solid, something that would prove Tom's intentions beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's when I noticed his laptop on the desk. I hesitated. It felt wrong to snoop, but then again, he hadn't exactly played fair. I opened it, and thankfully it wasn't password protected. His browser history was a smoking gun. Recent searches included best places to live in Miami, start a new life with savings, and high-yield investments for quick returns. One tab still open was a real estate listing for a studio apartment in Florida. I used my phone to take pictures of everything: his search history, the apartment listing, even the money in the closet. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Then I put everything back the way I'd found it, and left. When I got back to Emma, I showed her the evidence. She stared at the pictures in disbelief. He was going to run away with the money, she asked. Looks like it, I said. And he was going to make me take the fall for it. Her face hardened. What are you going to do? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to confront him alone, to demand answers. But then I realized he'd just twist the story like he always did. No, this time I needed everyone in the same room: Tom, my parents, and me. I'm going back tonight, I said. And I'm going to finish this. I spent the rest of the day rehearsing what I was going to say. Every time I went through it, I imagined my parents' faces, how angry, how hurt they'd been. But this time I had proof. They had to believe me. When evening came, I called my mother. I kept my voice calm and said I needed to come home to talk. She didn't sound thrilled, but told me to come over after dinner. By the time I got there, Tom was already on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he didn't care. My parents were at the dining room table, cleaning up after their meal. The tension in the room was suffocating. My dad looked up first. What are you doing here? I need to talk to all of you, I said, stepping inside. It's important. My mother crossed her arms, already skeptical. If it's about the money, we've heard enough excuses. It's not an excuse, I shot back. It's the truth. And I can prove it. Tom looked up from his phone, his expression bored. Here we go, he muttered. I ignored him and took out my phone. First of all, the money isn't missing. It's in Tom's closet. That got their attention. My dad leaned forward. What did you just say? I said the money is in his closet, I repeated. $13,000, neatly packed in a box. I saw it myself this morning. Tom's face twitched, but he recovered quickly. You're lying, he said, shaking his head. She probably put it there to frame me. I held up my phone. Really? Then explain this. I flipped through the photos I'd taken, the cash, the closet, and finally the browser history. I laid out everything I'd found. My parents leaned in, their expressions shifting from confusion to disbelief as they looked at the evidence. Moving to Miami? High-yield investments? My dad said, reading one of the screenshots. He turned to Tom. What the hell is this? Tom sat up straighter, his face a mask of indignation. She's making this up. Do you really think I'd steal from you? She's just trying to cover her tracks. Why would I do that, Tom? I shot back. Why would I steal money I didn't even know existed until you accused me? That's when my mom spoke up, her voice low. You knew the exact amount, she said, looking at Tom. His face paled. That's right, I said, pressing the point. You said $13,000 before Dad even opened the safe. How would you know that if you hadn't already counted it? Tom opened his mouth, but no words came out. He was trapped, and we all knew it. My father stood over him. Tell me the truth, Tom. Right now. For a moment it looked like he might continue to lie. But then he deflated, sinking back into the couch. Fine, he muttered. I took it. Okay? I was going to put it back after I sorted some things out. After you sorted some things out? My dad repeated, his voice rising. You were going to run away with our money! Tom tried to explain, but my dad wasn't having it. He turned to my mom. Call the police. No, wait! Tom jumped up, panic in his voice now. I'm going. I'll leave right now. You'll never see me again. Just don't call the cops. The room fell silent. My father stared at him, his jaw clenched. Then he nodded. You're leaving tonight. Take your things and go. And don't come back. Tom stood frozen, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And here. My dad reached into his wallet and pulled out a $50 bill. He slipped it into Tom's hand. For food. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. Tom didn't say another word. He packed a bag and left that night, slamming the door behind him. After Tom left, the house was eerily quiet. My parents and I sat in the living room, the tension thick. I thought it was over. I had proven my innocence and Tom was gone. But something wasn't right. My father broke the silence first. I can't believe he did this to us, he said, rubbing his face. To his own family. My mom nodded, but her gaze was distant, like she was working through something in her head. We need to check the rest of the house, she said suddenly. I blinked. What do you mean? She stood, her movements sharp. If he was planning to run away, who's to say this is the only money he took? What if he's been stealing from us for years? My father's eyes widened and he stood up, too. You're right. Let's check everything. I didn't think they'd find anything else. Tom had already confessed, and the $13,000 was the big prize. But I followed them anyway as they searched every hiding place in the house. The safe in their room? Empty. The emergency stash in the kitchen cupboard? Gone. Even the little box my mom kept in the garage for odd money? Nothing. When we were done, the total was staggering. Tom hadn't just taken the mortgage money, he'd taken over $20,000 from every hiding place my parents had. My mother sat down hard at the dining room table, her face pale. How long has this been going on? I don't know, my father said, pacing the room. But I'll call the bank tomorrow. We need to check our accounts. If he got into them. He didn't finish the thought. I felt sick. As much as I wanted to believe that Tom had just made a terrible decision, the evidence was mounting that he'd been planning this for a long time. And then, as if the universe wasn't done with us yet, there was a knock at the door. It was almost midnight, and neither of us was expecting anyone. My father moved cautiously, opening the door just enough to see who it was. A man stood on the porch, dressed in a dark hoodie and jeans. He looked out of place, shifting nervously from foot to foot. Can I help you? My father asked, his voice suspicious. The man hesitated. I'm looking for Tom, he finally said. Is he here? My father frowned. Who are you? The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked over my dad's shoulder, as if to see if anyone else was home. I need to talk to him. It's important. He's not here, my father said firmly. And he's not coming back. Now, if you don't mind. The man stepped forward, cutting him off. Look, I don't want any trouble, okay? I just need the money he owes me. That's all. My mom and I froze. What money? My dad demanded. The man sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Look, I don't know all the details, but he said he'd pay me back after he made some moves. He borrowed $5,000 a few months ago, said he'd double it by now. But I haven't heard from him in weeks, and I'm getting tired of waiting. $5,000. On top of the $20,000 he'd already taken from my parents. My dad's face turned red. It's gone, he said firmly. And you're getting nothing from us. The man didn't look surprised, but he didn't leave either. Just tell him I stopped by, he said before walking off into the night. We stood there in silence, trying to process what had just happened. Who was that? My mother finally asked. I have no idea, my dad said. But I don't think this is over. Neither did I. After the man left, we locked the doors and sat in the living room trying to make sense of it all. My parents looked exhausted, like they'd aged 10 years in one night. I didn't feel much better. Who knows how many people he owes? My father muttered. And now they're coming here? What if more show up? We can't just sit here and wait. My mother said, her voice sharp. We have to do something. Maybe call the police. I hesitated. But if we call the police, it could make things worse. What if Tom panics and does something stupid? Or what if that guy comes back angry because he thinks we ratted him out? My dad sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. We shouldn't even have to deal with that. He's the one who made this mess. We fell silent, the weight of the situation weighing on us. I thought about Tom's searches on his laptop, the money, the Miami apartment. He'd clearly been planning this escape for a while. But something about the guy at the door didn't add up. If Tom was getting ready to leave, why borrow more money? I decided to take another look at the photos I'd taken. I zoomed in on the browser tabs in one of the screenshots, hoping for a clue. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before, a tab labeled cryptocurrency. Wait a minute, I said, sitting up. What? My mom asked. I think Tom was investing the money, I said, pointing to my phone. He wasn't just planning to run away. He was trying to make more money before he left. My dad leaned over to look. Cryptocurrency? Isn't that risky? Very, I said. But it explains a lot. If he was losing money, he'd have to borrow to cover his tracks. That guy at the door? He's probably just one of many. My mother looked horrified. So all of this, it's not just stealing from us. He's gambling with our future. My dad stood up abruptly. We need to check his room again. Why? I asked. Because if he's hiding this, there could be more we've missed. And I want to know exactly what we're up against. Reluctantly, I followed them back upstairs. We combed through Tom's room again, checking every nook and cranny. It felt pointless at first. What else could there be? Then my mom pulled out a shoebox from under his bed. Inside were envelopes stuffed with receipts, bank statements, and scribbled notes. My father began to sort through them, and one piece of paper immediately caught his attention. Look at this, he said, holding up a withdrawal slip from the bank. It was dated 2 weeks ago. The amount? $10,000. That's not from the house money, my mother said, her voice shaking. This is from our savings account. My dad's hands shook as he flipped through more papers. This one's for $5,000. And another for $3,000. He's been draining our accounts for months. My stomach dropped. But how? Don't you check your bank statements? We trusted him, my mother said quietly. He knew the login information. He said he'd help manage things while we were busy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tom hadn't just stolen the money at home, he'd been systematically draining my parents' savings. What do we do now? I asked. My dad put the papers down, his jaw clenched. We'll go to the bank first thing tomorrow. Then we'll deal with the police. But before anyone could say another word, there was a loud bang on the front door. We froze. This time it wasn't a knock, it was a bang, like someone was trying to break it down. My dad grabbed the nearest object, a fireplace poker, and headed downstairs. My mom and I followed, hearts pounding. When he opened the door, there was another man, taller and angrier than the one before. I'm not leaving until I get my money, he growled. The man at the door was taller than the first, his face hard with anger. He pushed a piece of paper toward my dad. It looked like some kind of IOU with Tom's signature on it. $5,000. The man barked. He promised to pay me back last week. Where is it? My dad didn't flinch, holding the fireplace poker tightly. Tom's not here. And if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. You think I'm afraid of the cops? The man snapped. I don't care who pays me, Tom, I don't care. But I'm not leaving without my money. My mother stepped forward, shaking but steady. We're victims in this, too, she said. Tom stole from us. We don't owe you anything. The man sneered. Then you can explain that to the rest of the people he owes. That's when I snapped. You think threatening us will help? We're broke because of him. You want your money? Find Tom and take it up with him. He's the liar, not us. My outburst took him by surprise. He looked at me for a long moment, then sighed and stepped back. Fine, he said, turning to leave. But if I find out you're hiding him. He didn't finish the sentence before walking off into the night. After he left, we locked every door and window, the reality of the situation sinking in. My father slumped into a chair, the fireplace poker still in his hand. We can't wait any longer, he said. We're going to the police tomorrow. Tom has dug us into a hole, and it's time he paid for it. The next morning we went to the police station with everything: Tom's receipts, the IOUs, the photos of the cash, and the evidence from his laptop. The officer we spoke with didn't seem surprised. We've seen cases like this before, he said. The family trusts the wrong person, and things spiral out of control. We'll get a warrant for his arrest. Hearing those words was a gut punch. No matter what Tom had done, he was still my brother. But he'd crossed too many boundaries. It was time he faced the consequences. 2 weeks later they found him. He'd been living out of a cheap motel, using what little money he had left to stay off the grid. When they brought him in, he didn't deny anything. He admitted to stealing from us, borrowing from shady people, and planning to disappear. The trial was messy. Tom got a plea deal to avoid jail time, but was ordered to pay restitution to my parents and attend mandatory financial counseling. He also had to cut all ties with the people he owed money to, which wasn't going to be easy. As for us, the damage was done. With most of their savings gone, my parents were left scrambling to pay the bills and the mortgage. My dad had to pick up extra shifts at work, and my mom started taking on freelance gigs to bring in more income. I moved back home to help out. It was awkward at first, there were still so many raw emotions, but we worked through it. I took on more hours at my own job and started helping out with food and utilities. We sold a few things to make ends meet: an old car, some jewelry my mother had stopped wearing, and even some antiques my father had been collecting for years. It was painful to see these things go, but we had no choice. Slowly, we began to rebuild. It wasn't easy. Some days it felt impossible, like we'd never get out of the hole Tom had left us in. But my parents never gave up, and neither did I. We stopped hearing from Tom after his conviction. Part of me wanted to hate him, but mostly I just felt sad. He'd thrown it all away: our trust, his future, for what? A gamble that didn't pay off? Now, months later, things are finally starting to stabilize. My parents still struggle sometimes, but they're stronger than I ever gave them credit for. We laugh more now, if only to keep from crying. And me? I've learned a lot. About resilience, about family, and about the people you think you know. I don't think I'll ever fully trust Tom again, but I've come to terms with that. We'll make it. We may not have much right now, but we have each other. And that's enough.